some of the few things. First is around this idea of innovation, that there is a lot of idea creation, but the policies or the enabling environment is not encouraging innovation. To which I would partially agree, in the sense that we really do not have a designated innovation and value addition policy. And I think, although we have a sense of it, either in the growth at home strategy, or you would have it in the broader NDPs type of national policies. But I would agree that it may be necessary to look into having a designated innovation and value addition policy, research and development, which will talk to these aspects and how best we could enable them. So that's one. The second to it is to say that generally, there is this World Bank report on the future of work in Africa, and it will talk to the 3 E's. One of them is to enable entrepreneurship. One is to do with enabling social protection, which we wouldn't really go into. The other one is to enable productivity. And in enabling productivity, to talk about this idea creation. We must have idea creation, hubs idea creation. So let ideas flourish, no matter from whom it comes from, and how do you actually enable them. I'm talking about that in the context of the Procurement Act. The Procurement Act, in terms of the policy thrust, the idea is really to bring about transparency, to bring about credibility in the procurement process, and objectivity in it, right? But we agree that yes, there are those fundamental aspects that needs to be looked into, because you can have the best act, but if it's not implementable, it does not enable you to realize some of the national goals or the goals that you set out, then that's self-defeating. So in terms of preferences, and I want to emphasize that the procurement law makes provision for preferences, and especially local preferences. There is I think the whole part, section 11 of the Act, which I don't have here, section 70 up to 72, would talk to the issues of preferences. It is not really because there is no policy provision. And the preferences would say that there could be thresholds, national thresholds, upon which one could procure. So you could procure from startups, from SMEs, from youth-owned businesses, from women-owned businesses. So that provision is there. What has been lacking is what we call the codes of good practices, which sets out standards how to do them. And that rendered us not being able to apply the provisions of the Act fully. So what is happening at the moment, last year you noticed that there were guidelines that were issued by the Minister of Finance to enable that to occur, but we have set ourselves to amend the law, and these amendments, you will see them coming through in the course of next year on the various aspects of the Procurement Act. And the idea is not to do away with the Act, the policy of the Act, but just to render it practical. So that will be coming. There will be stakeholder conversation. This is already one of them, so I'm taking notes as you have seen. But that our procurement policy unit would be spearheading that to bring about those amendments so that we make the law more practical. The second aspect that I want to touch is taxation. We don't have a simplified tax for startups and small businesses. That's acknowledged. It has been raised in the minister's budget, one of the budget statements, that one area to look at is to come up with a simplified regime for small businesses. So it's initially we thought we could do what they call presumptive tax or tax on turnover. I think the feedback that we got was that that is not really a good idea. It might have counterproductive or unintended consequences. So the aspect of investigating and coming up with a simplified tax for small units, as you could see, practice either South Africa has a similar regime or so, other countries. So that's an area that we'll be looking at. What else must I talk about? I think that broadly covers some aspects that I wanted to touch. Oh, okay. Yes, sir. What you have referred to as seed capital or capital from DBN under the skills-based lending facility. That is one of the products which specifically also targets startups. In most of the products that come out, like the financing products coming from especially the development finance institutions, the DBN, Agribank, or whatever, but you have also the commercial banks pitching in, it is to say that we tend not to look at startups per se, but we talk about SMEs, and that gets generalized, that maybe there is an oversight around startups. But in the skills-based lending facility, where we target artisans, we target professionals, businesses, and DBN is administering that. I'm so happy that we have a living example here. Some may be in the room, is really to say that there are actually a number of facilities that are under implementation, those under the SME financing strategy, but lately also what supplements that, the skills-based lending facilities I have said. There is also 121 constituency youth entrepreneurship development facility, which was rolled out last year as well, apart from the mentorship and the coaching program. So these are up and running. You noticed that a week ago, and that was not for elections, by the way, a week ago, Minister Ithindi also launched the COVID-19 SME product, but that also does not leave out startups. It is basically to look at the whole ecosystem and say that the businesses, startups, and SMEs, MSSME, that are hit by COVID-19 also benefit from the facility. I just wanted to emphasize that, and then I'll leave all the questions then to my distinguished discussants here, fellow discussants, to touch on them. My colleague, indeed, from Ministry of Trade, Industrialization, Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, she has not been able to join the discussion, but it could have been interesting also to hear from the perspective of what of the aspects that the ministry is spearheading, whether it's a payment aid scheme and all those products that are available. But suffice for me just to say that for BIPA is established for the purpose and the mandate is articulated in its establishing law to serve as a one-stop shop center for ensuring that this business registration is fast-tracked, that we address this binding constraint or this observed bureaucratic delays in the number of days it takes to register a business, among others. I know that the ministry and the Minister Lucia Ithindi has been busy looking at the operational efficiencies of BIPA. You notice that the Minister of Public Enterprises has addressed the issues of governance as regards the board and how the board and management could run the institution. So I think at the governance level that policy guidance and that it's been, the aspects there has been addressed, but I think the institution, they still then have to look at the turnaround strategy, turnaround time, business registration, among other things. What else should I talk to? Okay, France, Marxist, okay. So the procurement, I talked about the procurement law for sure. So the intention is not to leave out anyone, at least in terms of the policy, in terms of the act, the provision of the act, is such that actually everybody is catered for. And the issues of preferences, local preferences, including preferences for startups, are covered under Section 11, Section 72 of the law. We need to make that law implementable and practical. So for that, we need, as a ministry, finance, to bring about and to implement the codes of good practices, and to amend the law where we have sticky points that we have committed to, and in the course of next year, you will see these amendments coming through. Actually, there was already a workshop at the policy level, and this has to be taken to or brought to the stakeholders. Let me end there for now. I trust Margaret and Yesa will talk to the issues of trust, which my friend Louise has stated, the issues of whether we lack trust of Namibians. But you see, this thing of trust, maybe there are subjective issues around trust, that this application is brought by Penda. So I know him, is from my village. Why Penda? Why not Martha or something like that? But generally, how financial institutions work, at least the DFIs, like DBN, for example, they work on the basis of set eligibility criteria and nothing else subjective. So if there is something subjective that is not in the spirit of the law and established guidelines, that's why there are rules. And if we are a rule-based country, we must stick to this. Other things really that go beyond the eligibility criteria, assessment criteria, the requirements, fit and proper issues, those are subjective, and really then it's individuals maybe that are pushing them, then they set criteria. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Penda.